When I made our draft sheets for ESPN, I was surprised to see that ESPN ADP is pretty good. I would actually say it's a lot more accurate than the ADP on both a Sleeper as well as Yahoo. So I'm not going to have 6 amazing values every single round and 6 horrible ADP values every round for ESPN. But obviously, there's still 1 or 2 that you should be either aggressively targeting or aggressively avoiding. And then I'll also hop into an ESPN mock draft at the very end of this, just so I can show you exactly how you want to take advantage of these values and these avoids. Now, round 1, honestly, there aren't really many players that stand out, positive or negative. It feels like every fantasy platform in the first round has things pretty accurately, and you're not going to find any glaring weaknesses in the ADP. However, round 2, I did notice on ESPN, some of these running backs are pushed up just a little bit too much in comparison to the values that we can get later. Like, you do have Jonathan Taylor going at pick 17, Josh Jacobs going at pick 18, Kyron Williams going at pick 23. And if you're using my draft sheet that we made when you're looking at 2 wide receiver, single flex ESPN, you'll notice that I actually have Brock Bowers much higher with our power rankings. And instead of taking one of these potential high-end RB2s, I would rather just take the number 1 tight end overall, especially going back to the fact that a lot of these ESPN leagues are going to be 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, where we know the tight end position is going to make up a significant percentage of our starting lineup output. Now, going over to round 3, I don't really see many horrible values in terms of oh, you have to avoid this player, but there are some really interesting picks you can make here. I think the elite level quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who both go in the middle of round 3 in these ESPN drafts, could be a great way to start your draft. I actually have Josh Allen and Lamar ranked at the very end of round 2, the very beginning of round 3, when it comes to these ESPN 2 wide receiver, 1 flex formats, and I would still consider them strong values even if you're playing in a double flex league. Chase Brown is also a player that's definitely worth bringing up, because if we're going to look at a lot of these values later on, you're not going to have a very easy time identifying running backs that are underpriced on this platform. However, Chase Brown is a middle of the round 3 pick in ESPN drafts. And if you actually go over to flockfantasy.com and look at the expert average consensus rankings, you'll see Chase Brown we have as a mid round 2 selection. And in my personal ESPN draft sheets we have posted, I have Chase Brown ranked as an end of round 2 pick. So I think Chase Brown's a running back that if you get him in round 3, where you can honestly start your draft off going with either Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, then Brock Bowers, and then following that up with Chase Brown if you really needed a running back here. Going over to round 4, I think the worst picks on the board are going to be Joe Burrow and James Conner. What's going to be very interesting with ESPN and Yahoo drafts, we talked about this with the Yahoo video, is that a lot of these mid QB1s are pushed up way too close to the elite quarterbacks. Like right now, Joe Burrow has an ADP of pick 39 on ESPN, as opposed to Lamar Jackson at 29 and Josh Allen at 28. So again, if you want to get yourself that elite level quarterback, you need to be doing it with the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels tier, and you need to be doing that in round 3. Don't just go, I'll get Burrow in the following round, I'll get Baker Mayfield 2 rounds later, because the opportunity cost is going to be marginal between the round 3 and round 4 pick. However, the quarterback production between Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield, or Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, should be massive. Now, James Conner also will be an avoid in round 4. I actually have some rookie running backs ranked straight up over James Conner that you can get in round 6 in these ESPN drafts. The round 4 values that you could actually be going for would be like Marvin Harrison and Amari Hampton. If you're doing a mock draft on flockfantasy.com, you're doing a underdog draft, you're doing a draft where people are really paying attention, you will see both Marvin Harrison and Amari Hampton are locked and loaded into being 3rd round picks. However, Marvin Harrison has an ADP of pick 43 on ESPN. Amari Hampton has a pick 44 ADP, and I have Hampton ranked at 31 at this point. So again, if you're using our draft sheets, they would absolutely love you taking these players at the 3-4 turn. Now, obviously, if you don't have access to our draft sheets, I would 100% recommend you using this for your ESPN draft. You can use your exact league settings, because we made 50 different draft sheets, all which are personally tailored to the exact league settings that you're playing with. Now, you're not going to use all 50 sheets. Go to the directory, pick your exact league settings, the exact ESPN sheet that you need for your draft. And you can get that with just a $34 season pass to flockfantasy.com, where we also have all the tools for you to dominate your league throughout the entire season, including weekly rankings, rest of season rankings updated every single week, trade calculator, trade finder, my team's dashboard. I mean, the whole 9 yards. $34 one-time payment gets you access to everything until January 1st. And on top of that, if you use promo code FLOCK, I will actually be answering your start sit questions and your trade questions for free during this season on the live stream. I'll leave the link to flockfantasy.com in the description and the comment section. Now, going over to round 5, this is where you begin to flip and actually see a lot of strong wide receiver values. Like, we have Xavier Worthy and Devonta Smith as great picks here, and the avoids would be like Joe Mixon, where you're dealing with the foot injury, so it's just a little too shaky. DeAndre Swift, I don't necessarily know if we have the upside here to justify the round 5 price tag. And then Jerry Jeudy, given the offense that he's in with the Cleveland Browns, his season-long underdog pick'em at the moment is higher, lower, 3.5 receiving touchdowns. However, he's going right alongside Xavier Worthy and Devonta Smith, which is just absolutely crazy. Now, going over to round 6 targets, again, I want to point out that it's very difficult to find running back values in ESPN drafts. Running backs are pushed up across the board. However, RJ Harvey and Trevion Henderson are phenomenal picks that you can get in the 6th round. Trevion Henderson has an ADP of 71. RJ Harvey has an ADP of 72. Tet McMillan has an ADP of 70. So across the board in almost both Yahoo drafts and ESPN drafts, what I'm finding is a lot of these top level rookies are great picks that extends from Amari and Hampton to McMillan to Harvey to Henderson. The round 6 avoids, super simple. You're going to be avoiding the quarterbacks here. Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield have an ADP of 62 and 63. Again, this is why I stand by Lamar, Allen, Daniels being phenomenal selections in round 3. Because if we're getting these quarterbacks just going 3 rounds later, they're going to be scoring 6 points per game less than them this next season. It's just crazy, the points per game drop off that you get for only a 3-round cost difference. Now, round 7, honestly, doesn't have anything glaring. Like I said, I think ESPN's actually going to be a tough platform to draft on this year. And I think you're not going to be able to just absolutely abuse the rankings the way that you can the other formats. But round 8, we actually have some stuff. Evan Ingram, ADP of 86. Master ADP across all platforms at about 92. My rankings, I have him 108. I either think you want to get that elite tight end with Brock Bowers in round 2, or very similar to the quarterback position, you're going to wait till the very end of the draft. You either go elite, or they're going to be one of your last few picks. You don't want to be taking the guys in the middle rounds. Javonte Williams, also at the same time. Really bad round 8 price. If you could just get the other Dallas Cowboys running backs for free, I think that'd be interesting. A round 9 avoids Ramondre Stevenson, J.K. Dobbins. It's crazy that you have Trevion Henderson and RJ Harvey only going 2 to 3 rounds ahead of these guys. Like, you have Stevenson ADP 93, Trevion Henderson ADP 71. You have Dobbins ADP 95, RJ Harvey ADP 72. Around 9 targets, all wide receivers. Jennings, Debo, Ricky Pearsall, Egbuka. This is the range that you need to be attacking wide receiver in your ESPN drafts. Round 10 targets, we got Jordan Mason. Round 10 avoids, Shaheed. And then the late round targets, Josh Downs has an ESPN ADP of pick 148, which is just absolutely crazy in my mind. And again, this goes to why I am going to include the ADP for the platform that you are drafting on when you are using our 2025 draft sheets. Because I have Josh Downs ranked at about pick 80. So does everybody else on flockfantasy.com. Keep in mind, it's not like I'm a crazy person who's lost my mind. It's that this price is horrible in ESPN drafts. So I don't want to tell you, hey, you got to take this dude at pick 80 if he has an ADP at 150. So what we do on those draft sheets, you'll notice, is to come up with the power ranking for the player in the actual draft board that you should be using, is we take the average between my rankings and the draft platform that you are drafting on. And then obviously we're taking into account your league settings as well. Zach Charbonnet, great value. Ayuk, great value. ESPN ADP at pick 140. I would only take Ayuk, of course, if you're actually able to go ahead and throw him on your IR after you draft him. Jerome Ford, I think you're looking at maybe a little too aggressive of a price in ESPN drafts, even though I like his cost on Sleeper and Yahoo. CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. If you decided to pass on the middle round quarterbacks, like CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, these are the type of guys that you can get with your last 2 picks in your draft. which again is why I don't think you should be taking Baker Mayfield round 6. Don't take Mahomes round 6. Either take Lamar and Allen round 3, or you wait until the last 2 rounds and you take CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. And then Nick Chubb would be a great last round pick. He has an ESPN ADP of pick 190, but he could be in line to start week 1 with the Joe Mixon injury. Then the avoids, Eckler, Jack Besh, Marvin Mims, Adam Thielen, all way too expensive on ESPN. No interest here whatsoever. But let me hop into an actual ESPN mock draft using our 2025 ESPN draft sheet so I can show you exactly what a draft looks like if you have one of those sheets. We are here in this ESPN draft. It officially has kicked off. And again, I have pulled up, I think this is maybe the 8th sheet out of the 50. If you look at the directory, this is the ESPN 12 team PPR start 7 format. We're going to be using the power ranking. We're going to be using this to make our selections. And we are now on the clock. And the guys that are gone are Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Saquon Barkley. So if you go ahead and look at who we have highest on our list, my ranking, we have at pick 3, Jahmyr Gibbs. You can see that ESPN has Jefferson as the highest. But what I'm actually probably going to do is I'm going to be taking Jahmyr Gibbs off my ranking list, especially looking at a lot of the big boards compared to ADP later on in this draft. I think we're going to be able to get incredible wide receiver values as we demonstrated earlier in the video with the values typically in rounds like 9, 10, 11 in these ESPN drafts being heavily favored to the wide receiver position. This is exactly what we talked about earlier in the video, where you were going to see some of these running backs go a little too early in ESPN drafts like Josh Jacobs and Kyron Williams. So if you go ahead and if you pull up our actual draft sheet here, you'll see that we have Brock Bowers as the top pick. So let's go ahead. Let's take Brock Bowers. The next best pick for us would have been Jonathan Taylor, but we are sitting really pretty, especially knowing that we are going to have some phenomenal wide receiver values late. We are on the clock, and you're seeing here that we are beginning to see wide receivers be the best available player on the board. Ladd McConkey is the top name for us. Obviously, it's a little bit shakier now that you're looking at the Keenan Allen signing, but we will go ahead and we'll still stand by Ladd McConkey ahead of T. Higgins here in the middle of the 3rd for our first wide receiver slot. So the person right ahead of us made the massive mistake in taking Joe Burrow. ESPN's telling us to take James Conner. However, I think that you would be making a really big mistake if you were to do that. Looking at our big board, we have Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, and Breece Hall as the best available players. And honestly, because there are so many interesting wide receivers that could make it back to us, I'm actually going to go ahead. I'm going to take Breece Hall, who is the 3rd best player on our board, but the best running back on our board at this point, because again, looking at what's coming up later on our big board, you will see that all these guys are wide receivers that we're going to be targeting in round 5. So we'll take Breece Hall. Again, ESPN's telling you to take James Conner, but I think that's one of the instances of ESPN being wrong. You don't want to take Conner. You don't want to take Swift. You want Breece. So the best player on this board at our point is either going to be DJ Moore or Rashee Rice. Let's go ahead and let's just make sure DJ Moore is not gone. Nope. DJ Moore is still there in round 5. So we will take DJ Moore as our 2nd wide receiver off the board. And now at this point, running back, we have Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall. Wide receiver, we have Ladd McConkey, DJ Moore. We have the elite tight end with Brock Bowers. And maybe ESPN drafts are a little easier than I initially gave him credit for. I hope we're not missing anything, but for us, it looks very clear that Travis Hunter is going to be our best available player. So we will take Travis Hunter. He was the top name on our draft board at this point, and it wasn't really close either. I guess it was maybe a little close with Travis Hunter versus RJ Harvey, but we have 2 very strong running backs, so we can afford the Travis Hunter pick. We got so close to actually having RJ Harvey make it back to us, which would have just been insane if it did happen, but he goes right before. We have ESPN telling us to take Bo Nix. However, on our draft sheet, Chris Olave is the best name. We are not going to overthink it. Again, I think we want to be avoiding the quarterbacks and tight ends in the middle rounds. You either get the elite guy or you wait until the very end. So that's exactly what we are going to be doing. So I thought I was missing something. I understand that Jordan Addison is suspended, but he is by far and away the best player on our board at this point. So we're going to go down. We'll reach on him. And what's cool about our team is we're strong enough where we have Jordan Addison now going to our bench. Jordan Addison is currently our wide receiver 5 on this team. So we're in a position where we probably don't need to take any more wide receivers. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, this is a best ball team, blah, blah, blah. Completely understand where you're coming from. But again, DJ Moore could be total dust. We have no idea. Travis Hunter may not work out. So building around high upside wide receivers in the middle rounds, even if you're drafting players that technically are going on your bench, it's not a bad thing. You don't need to fill out your starting lineup before you start drafting players that are going to be on your bench. It's why you end up seeing a lot of these quarterbacks and tight ends get overdrafted. So we are on the clock. If we go ahead and just go position by position here, we will have Travis Etienne as the highest graded running back on our board. Tight end, Evan Ingram's pretty close for us though. Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall are the best available running backs. So I think we're actually probably going to do is we're going to just take the best player on our board at running back, which will be Travis Etienne as our RB3. And we will reach on Etienne to take him ahead of Cam Scadaboo and J.K. Dobbins. Where if you're drafting like on a site that uses very accurate rankings, like for instance, if you're in a mock draft on flogfantasy.com, if you find yourself in these reaching rounds to get your guys, I would probably question that because the ADP list is situated with a bunch of average expert rankings that stay up to date very, very often. You can see the latest update that you had from any of our creators is 2 days ago. So there, if you're reaching consistently on ADP, I would be a little bit concerned. But in your ESPN, in your Yahoo draft, honestly, F it. You can go ahead and kind of do whatever you want here. Because in my opinion, you shouldn't be taking Cam Scadaboo over Travis Etienne. We are going to go ahead and yet again take the best player on our board. We're just going to go ahead and reach on him, which is going to be Jordan Mason here at running back. And we'll continue to build up our high-end upside through the flex spots while we wait on quarterback, wait on tight end, understanding that everybody already has their starting quarterback. Everybody already has their starting tight end. They took him here in the middle rounds. So realistically, we should be able to find those values later on. So this is at the point where wide receiver, running back, you've had that big time fall off. So we can go ahead and we can pivot over and start taking our quarterbacks and start taking our tight ends now. Quarterback, you have Love, Goff, McCarthy, Tua, Stroud, Lawrence. Ton of values there. So what we're actually going to do is we are going to take Dalton Kincaid. Given the high ankle sprain that we have with Shakir, I think you actually could see more Kincaid in this offense. And what actually is going to screw us here is this team immediately after is on auto, and they auto draft a third quarterback. So in a regular draft, a team's not auto drafting a third QB. This team auto drafts a third quarterback here as well with Jared Goff, treating it as if it's a best ball league, but obviously it's not going to happen in your regular redraft format. So we're on the clock, and if this was a real draft where people weren't going to auto draft third QBs, I actually probably would push the envelope a little bit more at quarterback, but here, seeing those auto drafts, I just want to make sure that we're going to get 2 starters. So we will take CJ Stroud, who's the highest quarterback on our board at this point, and we will probably end up getting Lawrence on the way back. But like we discussed previously, you either want to take the elite quarterbacks at the top, or you want to just wait until the last few rounds, grab Stroud, Lawrence, play the matchups. And also, if league mates aren't auto drafting 3 QBs, you probably could be actually playing the matchups between Goff and Love this late. I was hoping ESPN had a league analyzer the way that we do on flogfantasy.com, but sadly, no draft analyzer. I'll run it down for you, though. Quarterback, we have CJ Stroud, and then we also took Michael Penix. If teams weren't getting auto-drafted 3 quarterbacks, I promise you, we would have had like Jordan Love, Jared Goff. But running back, we have Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall. Wide receiver, Ladd McConkey, DJ Moore. The elite tight end with Brock Bowers. We have Travis Hunter, potentially in the flex, if not Travis Hunter. We also have like Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Travis Etienne, Jordan Mason. And then at tight end, we have the elite level option with Brock Bowers. And honestly, when I drafted Dalton Kincaid, I had forgot that we drafted Brock Bowers. But when you have Bowers, you don't even need to draft another tight end. So maybe we should have just gone with like Zach Charbonnet chasing the upside at running back. But overall, really like the team, really like the draft, really confident with the draft sheets over there on the site. And obviously, if you wanted to actually get those draft sheets to take to your draft, whether you're drafting on ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo, NFL Fantasy, CBS, it doesn't matter. They're all on flogfantasy.com. 50 custom draft sheets for your exact league settings, your exact platform. If you use promo code FLOCK when you sign up to flogfantasy.com, you're also going to get me to answer your start sit questions and your trade questions in live streams during the season. And at the same time, you'll get access to all the tools on the site, the trade calculator, the weekly rankings, the rest of season rankings, the trade finder, the My Teams page, player comparison, range of act. You got it all. $34, one-time purchase. Link in the description, link in the comment section. I hope you decide to join the flock, and I hope I can see you out in a live stream sometime soon.